Hi, and welcome back to the HE Enable podcast. This is the show all about sharing our experiences of disability, neurodivergence, and long-term health conditions in the UK higher education system. I'm Kath, and this week I am joined by Oscar. He is a mechanical engineering student at Manchester Metropolitan University, where he is also the chair of the Disabled and Neurodivergent Society. I was spotting a theme here. I had Talia on last week, who is also a chair. It's almost as if I've been cold messaging all of you. It's a pleasure having Oscar on the show today, and I cannot wait to get started. Hello, Oscar. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi, nice to actually meet you. This is the first time we've not been emailing. Please, could you introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background in higher education?
Yeah, so I'm Oscar, obviously. I study at MMU. I currently do mechanical engineering, but I'm looking into doing a PhD, sort of still in engineering, but shifting towards looking into the environmental impacts of urban green walls. You know, when you have like the walls of plants on skyscrapers and stuff. So just looking at whether they actually provide any benefit to the urban environment. Other than that, I'm a nerd, play lots of games, do CAD modeling, 3D printing, and I sword fight at Whitworth Park every Saturday.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. I remember my first uni had one of those green walls, and we were thinking, like, is it going to take more energy to put it up than it is to actually, like, have it there? Is it kind of like the keeping it up versus maintaining it process, or is it just the walls in general?
So it's more just the walls in general, so like using computer vision to track the biodiversity they encourage, and a bunch of different sensors to just look at like air pollution, sort of gases around them, you know, how they actually impact the environment and whether they're beneficial from that perspective.
That is so cool. I really hope you get funding for that, because it's also very worthwhile research. It's also like I feel like modern utopia, there's just like plant walls everywhere, and it'd be nice to know they're actually effective.
Yeah, it's already funded. The lecturer for one of my units actually asked if I wanted to take part because it was tangentially related to a different project of mine, which is basically using computer vision and machine learning to detect landmines. And he thought, since I have an interest in that, I might be interested in a different practical application of machine learning, which I am.
That's so cool. And like, you have decent audio equipment as well. So I like to think that you can also use that computer vision to make music, which I've had people do with plants before.
Yeah, no, I was part of a competition a while ago, and somebody was saying he wants to build an app, sort of making that more accessible.
Yeah, I know some people who do it for their PhDs, but we're going to get sidetracked if I go into it. So if you're comfortable saying, how did your disabilities, neurodivergence impact your experience of higher education?
So I have something called FND, or functional neurological disorder, alongside non-epileptic attack disorder. They're very poorly understood conditions, but among some of the most common that are seen in neurology clinics around the country. They really aren't sure why it happens. There's several theories, but it can basically mimic any neurological condition out there. In my specific presentation, I get tics, I get seizures, my legs collapse when I walk, I get brain fog. I used to have quite a bad stutter, but that's gone away at this point in time. It's caused quite a few challenges, one of which was even getting into uni. I know during college they were a bit concerned, especially with my courses, that are not really a safeguarding risk, but in terms of, I do obviously engineering, I did engineering at college too, so there's always been a concern persistent across all education about whether it's dangerous for me to engage in my course and whether I can still actually meet the key assessment criteria without being physically involved. And as someone who always enjoyed the practical part, it has taken away a bit from the enjoyment of the courses, and it was sort of, when going into it, I was always a bit less excited than I used to be, because this was a sudden disability that came on when I was 17. Obviously, because I had to come to terms with the fact that I would never be allowed to do the part that I really enjoyed, which was bringing everything together, assembling it, and seeing a thing I made actually work. But aside from the barriers there was a bit of a social barrier. I have to have a support worker, otherwise I get ambulances called when I pass out. Freaks people out, understandably. Having a random person who isn't a student does kind of hamper your ability to socialize. But at the same time, I think it has provided so many different social opportunities through societies and extracurricular activities that I never would have accessed otherwise.
And we're definitely going to get to those because, I mean, I always ask about societies and obstacles and everything. I'm going to say it because I can't get this thought out of my head, but when you have the support worker, obviously they have to kind of lurk. Does it feel like those scenes in like 90s movies where there's like two kids on a date and the parents over in the next booth kind of drinking a milkshake? Because if it's a bad analogy, then call me out, but it's just what's in my head.
I think sometimes it can a little bit. Specifically with these support workers, it's actually not that bad. I don't have many friends on my course for one reason or another, but for the most part, I'm actually just quite friendly with them. They're quite close in age to me, so I can usually just talk to them as if they're a peer, and the more chill ones have gotten that. Some of them, having a conversation with them is borderline impossible, and it definitely does just feel a little bit like you just sat there like, okay, you're just being watched. And then if a friend comes over, they're just kind of sat there awkwardly, just like staring into your soul while you're just talking about the weirdest stuff.
It's like, how's the weather today? But it's good that they're chill for the most part. I had that image in my head, and I knew I think how my own brain works, if I didn't say it, it would stick.
No, I get you.
That's really good that they're chill. I have one more question. So part of this is you are a wheelchair user, and that is
Yes.
a part of this. Do you think that like the putting it all together stuff, is it to do with mobility or is it to do with neurological symptoms? Like, because a bit of engineering you didn't want to do. Or sorry, you couldn't do.
It's kind of a mix. So I use the wheelchair to make it, for one, people freak out a bit less when you pass out in the chair because it's a lot less noticeable than collapsing to the floor. And then also energy levels and just being able to walk in general on my worst days, I just can't, and I need to be pushed around.
Fair.
But not being able to access it is more because if I have a seizure while I'm operating machinery and I fall into it, because this isn't pleasant machinery, this is machinery that uses rotation to cut through metal.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough.
You don't want to fall into that.
No.
I've seen the videos.
No.
Nope.
Oh, that is... Yeah, fair enough. It's a shame, but obviously you're still doing academia, you're still doing engineering. So, you know, every cloud, isn't it? So, we're going to go back to the start of your educational journey right now. What was your experience accessing higher education from a disability standpoint? I know you've already mentioned college and what that was like, but I specifically want to ask about your welcome week because I know this was an impactful time for you.
I didn't get one. So, at the start of university, my condition, I would say, was a lot worse, but I didn't know how to cope with it as much. It was a lot fresher to me. I'd only had it for about, a year at that point. So I was still coming to terms with the fact that I was disabled now, and I was still definitely learning coping mechanisms and how to still get around, even. So I was a lot more reliant on the people around me, and I was a lot less certain that I'd be okay by myself. And I needed support workers, and the university said they would arrange them, and they didn't. They arranged them for after welcome week, but that meant I missed out on that sort of initial when everyone was new and nobody knew everybody. So it kind of got that cycle started of me not knowing anyone or anything going on the course, but...
There's no academics, we're not going to give you a support worker for that first week, we're not going to schedule them. Or was it just a genuine admin error?
Yeah, I don't think there was any, like you said, no lectures and stuff, because it was all like introductory lectures and stuff that they wanted me to participate in. It was just they didn't get it sorted in time, unfortunately.
That is so annoying. Was it, if you don't mind me asking, was it a uni or a DSA support worker?
I was through uni.
Huh. That's really annoying. I'm sorry about that.
That's alright.
We're gonna I feel bad doing this. We're going to keep digging down the negative rabbit hole because that's the order of the questions. We'll cheer this up in a few questions' time. Did you encounter any obstacles during your experience of higher education? Did you overcome them? And if so, how?
Unfortunately, plenty. I think a lot of this isn't strictly like a massive obstacle per se, but like the buildings on campus, which is a massive thing that we're trying to get fixed. Not everywhere is accessible, and sometimes you'll be timetabled on like one side of campus and then the other, and it takes you like 20 minutes if you're in the wheelchair to get across campus. You don't have that amount of time between lectures, you have maybe 10 minutes. So you end up missing out, and especially when you have to go through some of the most crowded areas where people will use the ramp instead of the stairs, and you just get stuck behind a giant horde of students who leave like a human's width, but not a wheelchair's width to get past. So getting around, that can be quite difficult from time to time. There's been, on like the extensions front, they've always been great with that. But equally, there's some weird stuff with Moodle and the way they release their grades, where if you get an extension, even if your work has already been graded, it won't release until the original grade release date plus your extension length. Even if it's already been graded past the original grade release date, for some reason. And that causes a lot of people a lot of anxiety. I don't really suffer from that, but the practical consequence of that for me was when they decided that my resubmissions should be given to me 2 weeks before hand-in at the end of year 2, I ended up in a situation where I was 2 weeks from the start of year 3 with no idea if I was actually progressing on to year 3.
Oh.
Because my grades hadn't been released yet.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that part of Moodle being accessible. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I remember someone mentioning, I think just the platform itself being a bit of a pain in terms of feedback, but that's a new one. That must have been, because you would have booked accommodation, and if you need extra requirements for that, or if you have, just mates even that you've got a tendency with, that can be stressful. Really stressful.
Well, yeah, it was mainly for me just uncertainty as to planning my life. I've already had to put it on hold once because of a disability, and I wasn't sure if I'd have to repeat a year or, how that was going to be handled. And then also, sorry, I just remembered another thing with Moodle. I got one of my assignments deferred, and they confirmed the deferral. They were like, yeah, that's fine because of disability reasons. I got my final grade transcript back for year 2, and they were like, oh, by the way, you handed it in late, so we're capping it at 40.
What?
You accepted it, and now you're just going back on it and saying, nah, you can get it capped instead. And it's just, it's not a big thing for me, but it's still frustrating, and I know for other people, issues like that are massively distressing.
Like, regardless of whether you have something on the line, if you're at a university, there's a decent chance that your identity lies in your academic outcomes. Right?
Yeah,
and if you're just like going there like, whoops, gonna mess with that for a bit, like that can be tough. Did you ever like get it rectified, or?
Not yet. I'm hoping, but everything else has been considerably more important since that happened, to be honest. And I still got a 71. It's like, it's okay.
That you must have compensated that very, very well. Fair play.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean, true, just make sure it doesn't time out, because sometimes unis have like complaint windows and...
Yeah, the complaint window is 14 days, so we're far outside that.
Fair.
I'm going to try it. I've got evidence of like court. I've got evidence that I've been diagnosed with ADHD and autism since then, so I'll throw it at them and say, hey, 14 days isn't enough anyway, but...
Yeah, so you got your diagnosis during your studies for ADHD and autism.
Yeah, I got ADHD this year about a month ago. I got autism last year in like August? Probably August, September time, I think.
Nice. Do you get any extra support from that you didn't get already?
We reviewed the support, but honestly, everything in place was already all they could do, really. They've been very accommodating when it comes to, like, the but a lot of people don't know the PLP exists.
It's also just different things in different places, because there's the SSPs for the student support plans, it's the same thing, and there's just so many acronyms flying around.
Yeah, no, and it's a stressful, massive transition in your life too.
Absolutely. You said as I interrupted you, sorry, people don't really read it. Is it very much you have to rock up to every new lecture and be like, hello, I am disabled, here's like the support that I need? Or is it very much you get what you need anyway and it's not that big a deal?
It's kind of both.
Fair.
When it comes to extensions and stuff, it's been as easy as just saying, hey, PLP, can I have another month? And they're like, go for it, gang. Equally, though, with my exam arrangements, I get some pretty ridiculous ones, which I'm not going to say because they'll make people jealous. Jokes. I get to do written exams from home, and I get 24 hours to do them because of my frequent seizures. They really interrupt my train of thought, and, you know, along with many other issues. So I just get to do them from home, 24 hours. Sometimes they forget that they've agreed to this because it's written slightly differently on the PLP. On the main one, there is a separate one to say, where possible, give me these exam arrangements. If not, follow these ones. But they always accidentally put in the, if not, follow these ones. And that ends up with ridiculous situations like this January, where we're scheduled in for 2 days of 7-hour exams, and the 7 hours does not include the lunch break they would have to give me.
Oh, was this like 7 hours each day?
Yes.
Oh.
As in, I would have just been sat there in a single room, unable to leave, doing one engineering paper for 7 straight hours, plus a lunch break.
That's...
Plus 15 minutes every hour.
And I'm guessing if it's an extra time thing as well, they wouldn't let you talk to anyone. So you would have been sat there.
Yeah, no, that would have been awful. And I was like, hey, guys, like, what? They fixed it once I brought it up to them, but, like, I shouldn't have to double check that I'm not going to be stuck in a room for 8 hours.
Yeah, how did you even find that out? Was it like oh, hey, you got a report here at this time? And you're like, no, I don't.
Yeah, they send out your exam timetable a couple of weeks in advance, and I was just like, hey, guys, are you sure this is right? And they were like, oh, yeah, no, that's kind of ridiculous, my bad.
You ended up sitting it from home and it was fine.
Yeah.
Good. Do you still have practical requirements for your course in any way? Not with like metal human crushing machines, but do you still have to do any practical stuff?
To be honest, that was mainly a limitation in college, because by the time I got to uni, COVID had happened, and they sort of switched away from requiring physical prototypes of designs, and it's more like focused on CAD these days, which I didn't realize going into the course, but, you know, hey, it's okay.
I mean, CAD's a pretty good standard now anyway, and especially with 3D printing, makes sense.
Well, that's probably more useful for me anyway, because nobody in their right mind would ever let me touch a CNC machine in the workplace.
Yeah, I can imagine it'll be quite a rigorous risk assessment.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's going to be outsourcing. I mentioned this in the intro. You are the chair of the Disabled and Neurodivergent Society at Manchester Metropolitan. First of all, how did you discover it?
I think I went to Freshers Fair. That was it. They just had a little booth at Freshers Fair, and we had a nice chat, because none of the other societies... I think Germa Society looked a bit okay, because they're a whole different kettle. But, you know, there was like 2 societies that stood out among everybody else that actually felt kind of approachable, so I went and spoke to them. I didn't speak to them for ages, because I thought I had to pay a bunch of money to join. I have no idea why. I think I overheard somebody say that. I didn't. That was me just being stupid. But yeah, I joined the Discord, and then I was chatting to some people in there, and then I started going out with them, and then that sort of broke like 7 years of not going out, which was good. It was really good for my social life. I got a lot of independence from hanging around the people there, because when I became disabled, I started to rely on everyone around me to keep me safe. You know, if I went out, it was either with my ex-partner or it was with my family, because I needed somebody around me constantly. And all of a sudden, I had a bunch of other people who were kind of used to it and didn't mind. So I suddenly had a bunch of people I could go out with by myself. And it really just opened up my social life. And it definitely changed me as a person for the better, I think.
Yeah, and I guess because it's a disabled student society as well, they're going to be much more accepting and possibly even know what to do if something medical happens. And that can be so reassuring.
Yeah, no, they were great for that. Nobody freaked out about it, which was nice. Not that I mind when people do, but like, it's nice to just go somewhere and just have everything be chill.
Yeah, normalization is such a big part of it, and just it all feeling normal, because then it takes up no more cognitive space, and sometimes that can ease symptoms, I guess, because you're not constantly running all of the time and there's not that stimulation there.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But I was wondering, because you're the chair as well, what other impacts has it made on your time at uni?
It's gonna, I guess, a bit more abstract and slightly strange. Being chair has probably made me feel quite adult. No, it's definitely given me a lot more perspective on like running stuff. Been in a lot of meetings with important people. Became a slight campus micro celebrity and was recognized for about a week. I think people have forgotten I exist now, but I was featured in a TikTok video that got like 500,000 views and 62,000 likes. Remember, I went outside a pub that's next to the uni. I was just walking to get my pizza, and somebody just tapped me on the shoulder and just went, "Hey, by the way, that crowd is shouting for you." And I was like, "What?" Turn around, there's like 20 people. All of them are just like, "You're the guy from TikTok."
I feel like I missed something here. This wasn't like the campus tour for the like president, like the SU election video. It's not that, is it?
It is exactly that. That was me.
Oh, well, yeah, because I've seen it.
Yeah.
Because you were like, I messaged the page and you were like, yeah, this is me. And I was...
Yes.
I end up going on dig for it. That got 500,000 views?
Yeah.
Yo, well done. To like you and the comments team, because it was a really... I mean, do you want to say a few words about what the video was about? I feel like you can do it better than me.
I mean, it was basically just highlighting some of the physical accessibility issues that we face on campus. And we got the current wellbeing officer and I guess the next student union president at MMU who tour the campus in my wheelchair, who basically just experience firsthand what it's like to have to get around campus as a wheelchair user. And he found it quite eye-opening, and apparently a lot of people who watched it did too. Yeah,
there were a couple bits. It was like tapping into buildings. Some of them were completely inaccessible. And the bit that I remember is there was a very stubborn door and you would just ram it with your feet. And it was just like, not everyone can do this. But like, I am ambulant and you just ram this door with your feet.
It's fun. I like doing that.
It must feel like a very just power move. You're just like, the sea's just parting.
Oh, yeah. I'm a battering ram. Human battering ram.
Do you have to like reinforce the soles on your shoes or like anything like that, or is it you just go for it?
Oh no, it's fine. It's full send.
That is, you know what? Fair. I feel it's a good segue to the next question, actually. Question I ask all of my guests. No is a complete answer. Have you experienced any instances of your disability, neurodivergence proving helpful at uni?
I think, honestly, yeah. As much as I face challenges, and ironically, as much as it socially hampered me in some ways, I'm gonna say I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. It let me meet so many of the people that I still hold dear to me. You know, it is the only reason I got my independence back at the time that I did. I wouldn't have gone out so much. I wouldn't be as familiar and comfortable with the environment I'm in when I'm out there these days. I wouldn't have started opening up, going out, or getting back used to that again after so long if it wasn't for my disability, because I never would have joined the society. You know, I never would have made those friends. And then at the same time, I also wouldn't have stepped up to become chair. I wouldn't have had this platform to talk to so many people. I wouldn't have been able to advocate for the people in the society, which is something I really enjoy doing, and I'm glad that I've got the opportunity to do now. So as much as it has caused challenges and difficulties, it's given me new perspective on life. It's helped my social development tremendously. It's gotten me friends. It's gotten me experiences that, even if, they haven't all gone the best in the end, that I would never take that back, and I would never wish for it to go away, because it's who I am now. It's had a profound impact on me and my life. Honestly, net positive, even if it does suck at times.
I mean, that's exactly what you want to hear, right? It's like, I found the society. Society was good for me. Was great. Are you planning to stay at MMU for your PhD, right? So you're going to try and stay on and keep chairing? Or
yeah, fingers crossed. If they don't mind me, then I'll stay as long as I can, try and get as much as I can pushed through, and then pass on the torch to somebody else who will.
That is completely fair. Questions are really out of order. I realise there's a bit of a gap in the continuity. But we'll give it a go. So you have a relatively recent diagnoses of autism and ADHD. Obviously, you mentioned that not really made that much of a difference to your support plan. But do you think the impact of that diagnosis has been lessened by the community you're in, or your perception of it potentially changed?
I think in part, a lot of people have they've just known for a while. I never sought a diagnosis, but some people knew, especially the people I met through the society, because a lot of them are neurodivergent themselves, so they're kind of just like, I see you. So, a lot of them clocked me early, so it was kind of like, used to it from that, and I'm used to being around it. A lot of my friends have always been some flavor of neurodivergent. I think a lot of it is not necessarily the community that I've been in, but I think just being late diagnosed in general meant it didn't change much. If I was younger, there would have been an intervention to correct some of the behaviors and hopefully get me to function a bit more normally. But because I'm already 21 by the time I got diagnosed, I am well used to all of this. I've been masking for so long that even if I don't get it all the time or intuitively grasp all of the social norms and rules, and even if I can't read somebody's face empathetically, let's say, it's pattern recognition at this point, and it's so ingrained in me that I rarely get it wrong. I just compare your face and your expression right now to everybody else I've ever seen and every emotion that I've known to be those faces. One massive image recognition algorithm. So it didn't really change much. And I think having a community of people like me, so I was already kind of used to interacting that way and all that, probably did help somewhat, but I just don't think it changed much for me in general, to be honest.
I think it's perfect that you're going to hopefully do work in computer vision, given that analogy. I think that's perfect. Did you think you got your diagnosis through because you saw people in the society and thought, maybe I should go for this? Because I'm guessing the timelines kind of light up. Oh, you're laughing. What's the... Uh-oh.
Okay.
You don't have to say anything you don't want to.
Oh, no, I'm happy sharing. I just kind of pray they never hear this. So I knew somebody, and we got fairly close, let's say. At some point, we had a couple of arguments. She is autistic and has ADHD herself. At some point, she was so sick of me just, not understanding why I was the way I am and why I was being so weird about some stuff, that she was just like, Oscar, get tested. And I was just like, okay. So I went and got tested, and surprisingly, to nobody, I have those.
To be honest, I had symptoms, it's a neurological, it's a developmental thing, right? I have a confirmed diagnosis of ADHD. My autism is what we call rigorously peer reviewed. And that is someone with a PhD who can't rubber stamp it going, yeah, you're super autistic. I was like, you know what, that's pretty equivalent. No one's ever taken it as not a diagnosis once I explain the circumstances.
Yeah, no, people, you can get pretty accurate. I find it really funny because for quite a while, you know how I said I'm good at masking it at this point? Quite a few people were like, when they met me for the first hour or two, they'd be like, you're not autistic. And then by the end of the first day, they'd always just be like, I take it back, you're definitely autistic.
Even my current partner and a previous partner before that were just like, I can't read you. you are incredibly hard to read. And like, you're in, like, my internal logic's like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, this situation makes perfect sense to me, and I think my reaction is fine. And they're like, no. You are so hard to read. Why is this all changing all of a sudden? I'm like, I don't know, it makes sense to me, man. Like,
It's them that are wrong, not us.
it's that Simpsons meme, isn't it? No, it's the children that are wrong.
Yes.
So we mentioned, I mentioned Jesus. I mentioned the Disability Society stuff at MMU. You've obviously said a lot about it. It's done a lot of great stuff for you. And I was wondering what change you're currently pushing for. Like, I had Talia on last week's doing, you probably didn't hear it as we're recording, it only came out yesterday, but they're pushing for beach wheelchairs during St. Andrew's May Dip, which is awesome.
Funky.
Yeah, it's making tradition accessible. We love it. Do you have any stuff in the work at MMU?
Right now we're on a lot more basic stuff, unfortunately. There's been a lot of construction work on campus lately, and they like to do stuff like block off the only accessible route in a certain direction to get between two buildings, or they'll block off the shortest route so you have to take an extra like 5 minutes, and it's not a big of a deal if you're walking, but if you're in a wheelchair, it's a pain in the arms, right? Like, let's just not. So we've kind of been pushing for more temporary ramps around the construction and stuff, whenever they block off the dropped curbs or cut off a route that had dropped curbs. We're pushing for, when they do events, the cable covers. You can't push yourself over those without tipping over or getting stuck. So we've been pushing to get sort of wheelchair accessible ramps to go over the cable covers, so we just have crossing points on them. Because, you know, you should be able to independently get around events. I don't think that's crazy. Maybe some improvements to some toilet facilities. I know some people have asked me about those. Some of the other stuff has just been the Moodle stuff, you know, making sure everybody gets their grades when they're actually done, instead of unnecessarily waiting for like an extra 3 weeks, because that's 3 weeks that can cause a lot of anxiety to some people. It's the ID stuff, it's the doors being broken when it rains for some unknown reason. Just a bunch of weird stuff we're getting out of the way with. And then the current student union president also wanted to work with us to do a campaign on neurodiversity and sort of helping people to recognize that, especially late diagnosed. Because like I said, you get to a certain point and that's just your normal. So the current student union president sort of wanted to work on a campaign for that. So that's still coming. Hopefully the next president carries it on too.
I've got a couple of little comments and inquiries now, actually. Please say you've used pain in the arms as like a campaign slogan or something.
I have not. I just thought about that one, but I'll remember it.
That is both an amazing play on words and literally true. Like, I had a guest once. So York has a bridge that takes you to the library, and otherwise you have to go all the way around and up a hill. And the lift was out, and they were literally just pushing themselves. It was Sophie's episode for, you know, and I think at some point estates just stopped replying to their emails. But I think it got fixed. But it's stuff like that, right? Where at some point you've got to be like why am I stuttering? I was at the disability exhibit at the V&A a couple months ago, and you learn a lot about that early disability rights movement in America, where they would literally just take sledgehammers to pavements. And be like, it's accessible now. And at some point it's going to be like, that hammer must be looking really tempting.
I think honestly, I've been thinking of doing stuff. So I have the facilities to make the ramps and stuff. So if the uni doesn't, I'm tempted to just go around and guerrilla install temporary ramps. You
should collaborate with your local skating community. I bet you they'd love it.
I mean, we have a skate society. I'll work with them.
Do it. Why not?
The other thing I was going to say is what I did with George. I just remembered, you know, what I did with giving him the tour. We're trying to do that with students. We're trying to do that with administrative staff who can actually change stuff. So we're just trying to go as high as we can and force everybody that we can in any position of power to go around campus on a wheelchair, so that they have to deal with it themselves.
I have this mental image of senior staff sitting down to their chair in a meeting, not realizing it's a wheelchair, and then just being like, okay, let's go.
Yep. No, we should do it. Yeah.
Surprise. I hope the new president continues the neurodiversity stuff.
Oh, he will.
He seems really on it. Yeah.
He's great.
Like, it was the only SU campaign I vaguely followed because I knew he was involved with that video. And yeah, seemed really chill and like good. Yeah, I saw that election result. I was like, you know what? Fair enough. That's pretty good. So, yeah, I hope that continues. Are there any other changes that you'd like to make?
I think for me, I just want to be able to get around. Other than that, I'm pretty alright. But I know there's some stuff that other people have. So I basically just encourage everybody to complain whenever they struggle with something. And then I go through the complaints channels and I just collect, all of the common complaints. And I'll think about what we can do about them. And then I'll just present those as and when they come up. As, hey, can we fix this by doing this?
I also have one last thing, and then we've got to close it up because we're both running to or from things. We're kind of squeezing this episode in. I used to work in theatre tech at uni, and there's obviously like the yellow and black ramp ones that everyone's familiar with, but there's also the rubber mats that you can put over it that are still super grippy, but you can kind of feel the cables through them. Is that easier for wheelchairs?
I don't know, I've never actually encountered those ones. I've only ever encountered the black and yellow ones.
No, you can get like grippy mats that you can put over them, or potentially just like a doormat, or like something, any kind of cover. You can still feel the cables, so I always figured it would be inaccessible in terms of maybe if you use a cane, or if you if you're struggling with mobility because it's uneven ground. But maybe.
I mean, I was basically just planning on 3D printing a mold, and then we can pour in some, like, hard rubber, like 95A. That probably means nothing to most people, but hard rubber, right? You can just pour in some hard rubber into a 3D printed mold, separate the mold, and then as long as you just have the negative of the cable cover underneath it, you can just put it on top. Friction will keep it in place. You can do it custom size, custom width, dirt cheap.
Sweet. I would love to see a render of that at some point, but I have places to run to. I know you have places to run to. So we've covered a lot. It's been a bit of a dense episode, this one. But we have covered a lot. It's been super informative. Thank you so much for coming on, despite my constant stuttering and bad analogies. I hope it's been fun. But we've covered a lot of ground. And I was just wondering, if we were to condense everything into 1 or 2 sentences, what is one key takeaway you would like listeners to remember from your story?
I think it's just, I know disability takes a lot from all of us, especially when it comes on suddenly and you realize, oh, hell, I'm going to have to give up on a lot of my future. But if you carry on basically to just spite the universe, if anything, and say, nah, I'm doing this, you can go places, and I genuinely think you can go further than you might have been able to before. It does limit you, and it is hard, but there is still hope for your future, and it can be bright.
I have nothing else to add. Actually, I do. One last thing, just because you'll like this anecdote because you've not heard it before. I was at a disability amnesty event in London in like October. I told someone I was doing the show, and they were like, how do you make it? And I was like, well, it was mainly spite, and they're like, oh, is that editing software? And I was like, no, but like, fair play. Like, it'd probably work.
Spite is such a good motivator.
Yeah. Great editing software.
Yeah.
Right. That's the end of the questions, Oscar. Thank you so much. I'm just going to close this up. So HE Enabled is the show all about sharing our experiences of disability, neurodivergence and long-term health conditions in UK higher education. If you are listening to this episode before whatever this Sunday is, editor's note, that is the 15th of March. Congratulations, you're probably listening on Patreon. Thank you so much. If you do want to be a patron, it's like a £1 membership a month. You get early episodes, and there will be more coming because I'm actually booked now, as opposed to where I've had to put a couple of delays on. So episodes will be coming, there will be content. There's also a Buy Me a Coffee link now if you'd prefer to do a one-time payment. Otherwise, just give the show a rate, give it a follow, all that good stuff. and there will be more coming soon. But in the meantime, Oscar, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers, my pleasure.